You're watching The Tom Renz Show with your host, Tom Renz.
Yeah, I'm so. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Happy Thursday to you all. And, well, I just don't know how else to say it, but my condolences to my brothers and sisters in MAHA. We've suffered one hell of a blow today. Not that it's a tremendous surprise, right? The Trump administration's glyphosate order is, I'm sorry for lack of a better term, a betrayal. It really is. It was an absolute betrayal of the principles of MAHA. Now, Trump did take some steps to remediate today, of course. Whenever we get kicked in the balls, it seems like they try to do something to make up for it. And today was no different. They did just that. There's a regenerative farming order, which I'll talk about. But it was a sour day for those of us that care about the health of America. The Supreme Court ruled today that you can no longer sue glyphosate manufacturers when their glyphosate product causes you cancer, despite the fact that, everybody knows it doesn't. And despite the fact that they fail to warn you. And despite all sorts of things, despite numerous jury findings and verdicts showing that there's really no question about the fraud that's occurred in and around glyphosate. But Big Chemical, much like Big Farm, gets protections. Big Pharma, Big Chemical, Big Ag, any of the bigs get protections because they can buy the right people off. They've got the right influence in Washington. And at this point, it extends all the way to the administration. Susie Wiles and her work with Mercury LLC and Ballard Partners is interesting because the president's chief of staff, who was formerly employed with those two lobby groups, those two lobby groups both represent Bayer Pharmaceuticals, the manufacturer of glyphosate. So the administration then decided to do what it does. If you pay enough money, you get protection. So the administration did just that. Now, Trump's doing some good things and some terrible things. And at the risk of everybody telling me how much I hate Trump, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the economic boom, but we're going to talk about the truth. Because you know what, guys? I'm sick of this nonsense. I am not a cultist. I supported Donald Trump. I want him to be successful if he's doing MAGA and MAHA. But if he's not doing MAGA and MAHA, guess what? I'm not going to support him, just like I would with anyone else. I don't care that his name is Donald Trump. I really don't. I want the president to be successful. I voted for him. I fought for him, but he's betrayed us. The MAHA actions, or lack thereof in some cases, have just been an absolute betrayal. We keep moving towards big tech, big everything, and away from individual rights and liberties, and I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely appalled by this. So I will tell you this. The ruling in the Supreme Court was not legally wrong. It was morally wrong. And there's a problem with it. And I want to get into the law today, and I want to explain to you exactly what's wrong with this and why there's a problem. It's not what you think. It's really not. So I want to talk to you guys about that. I want to get into this case. I want to break it down a little bit and talk about really one of the most important points that we can make related to this and why this case was bad for America while still being legally sound. It's a really important thing, and I really think it requires some nuance and some understanding. So we're going to get into that. Also today, I saw a peer-reviewed study was released. Get that, a peer-reviewed study. We can't question the science. So, I mean, this is the science. There's no longer any question. But this peer-reviewed study argues that the COVID-19 shots have self-assembling nanoparticles. What? That sounds like the crazy stuff that people were saying during COVID, except for, well, maybe it does. This is a very, very extensive document. Someone put together a lot of evidence and a lot of data. It was well done. And it doesn't break a whole lot of new ground. It summarizes old ground. So we're going to get into that, too. Lots of stuff to cover tonight, and we're going to be all over the place. So we really need you to focus and pay attention. This is going to be a tutorial. This is going to be like going to school, so you might fall asleep. Maybe not. We'll try and keep it a little more interesting. Before we do, like I said, we're not going to sell out, so we need your support. We need your help. Please consider going to givesendgo.com/Renzlaw, givesendgo.com/Renzlaw, and give what you can. We need your help. We're going to keep telling the truth, and we're going to keep fighting, but we need your help to do it. So givesendgo.com/Renzlaw. Also support us at www.tomrenz.com. TomRenz.com. Go to shop, check out our partners and affiliates. Of course, always Global Healing, men's hormone support. Love the men's hormone support, but I love all their supplements. Global Healing is a great product line. Use our link, use checkout code Renz, globalhealing.com/TomRenz for discounts. Checkout code Renz for discounts. And whatever you need, they've got it. The best supplements on the market, the most natural, purest supplements on the market, purified clean water, purified clean ingredients, nothing with glyphosate, no poisons in it. Wonderful product line. Make sure you're checking out Global Healing. And tonight, make sure you're checking out my sponsor, Nessa's Hemp. Nessa's Hemp is spectacular. It's one of the best CBD products you can find. It's not THC, it's CBD. So it's not going to make you high. But what it will do is give you all the benefits of CBDA. Nessa produces this by hand. She cold presses it. She does everything she can to preserve the CBDA, to protect and preserve your endocannabinoid system. Do you know that most doctors don't even know that you have an endocannabinoid system? You do. Your body was made to have some of this stuff in there, and you got to get it. We don't get it naturally in many cases. So Nessa's Hemp is a great way to find this. Make sure you're checking out nessashemp.com/#TomRenz and use checkout code Renz. for a discount on all of Nessa's Hemp's products. Nessa's a great girl. She does great things, a great product. She was the one that first tuned me into this endocannabinoid system, which is a really important thing. So make sure you're checking it out, Nessa's Hemp. Use checkout code Renz for discounts. All right. I want to get to I'm going to start at the beginning. So before we get to the Monsanto ruling, I got a couple other things that are really important. We're going to start out with this. Headline: Trump predicts historic economic boom for America's 250th birthday, right? I want to go on record and tell you that I was predicting an economic boom before the Iran war. The Iran war screwed up everything, but all the groundwork was laid. Trump's initial moves, all the deals he was making around the world, the economic moves, all these different things, they were very good. The one thing that Donald Trump has done better than anybody for a very long time is economic deals. This is the thing that Trump is the best at. It's the thing he knows. It's the thing he understands. He knows how to make deals, and he has done it. We have a ton of new growth and new investment in the United States, and I do think you're going to see an economic boom. Now, the question will be whether that economic boom impacts anybody down chain. The billionaires are going to make a killing. There's no question about that. And the people who have the right investments, the right stocks, who have gold, who have silver, who have certain cryptos, they're going to do well. I don't know that it'll be everybody, but the people who are doing well will boom, and I think it'll have a big impact on the economy overall. I want to go on record and say that I think the Trump economy will be something profoundly good in the next year or so. I do think we're going to see an economic turnaround and boom, and I think it will be pretty profound. I don't think it'll be long term because we're doing so much damage to middle class and small business, but the people at the top are going to explode. And, we'll see how much of that trickles down. I don't have a whole lot of faith in that, but we will see a pretty solid economic boom, I think. And we're going to see what they do with it. I think there's a plan here. I think that that's going to work out. Like I said, one thing that Trump did real well in his first term, and I think he's going to do it well this term as well, is I think he's going to get our economy moving. If our gas goes down to sub $2, if, we start seeing a lot more American manufacturing, a lot of these other things, we will start picking up a lot. Will it be long term? I don't know, because a lot of the manufacturing is going to end up being outsourced to AI and robots. And we're bringing in a lot of H-1B visas, a ridiculous amount, which I also don't like. But still, whether it's real or not, it will appear that we're having an economic boom. And so I think that the economy is going to take off. I think that's going to be good for everybody. And I think we're going to see some real good things economically coming up. So there's the good news. There's the good news. The bad news is that it's very tough to fully realize this when the Senate absolutely hates Donald Trump. The Republican Party hates Donald Trump, and they are doing everything they can to undermine anything that's America first. Obviously, we've talked extensively about the SAVE Act and some of these other things, but here's the problem. The Senate won't do anything. Now, we just see that the Senate adjourns for break, sparking House GOP fury over voter ID bill. So Thune today, with unanimous consent, right? Unanimous consent, adjourned the Senate until July 13th. So they're done. They're done. And now, mind you, they're done except for the fact they aren't going to allow any recess appointments. They're going to make sure that can't happen because Thune won't allow any recess appointments. But they're done. They're not going to pass the SAVE Act. They're not going to pass anything important. They're just going to sit on their hands and do nothing until, after the break. And this is really important because the senators work a solid 180 days a year, maybe on a good year. So they need a break. They're very tired. They need to go home and grease the palms of all the people who are buying them off. They need to go home and, go on vacation using the absurd amount of money that they've gotten through their insider trading. So that's what our Senate is doing right now. Thank you, John Thune, for being the biggest Democrat in the Republican Party. I don't know what else to say about it. Thune sucks. The Republican Party is just in abject turmoil, and we're just not getting anything done that matters to America. The only things we get done are things that the globalists, big pharma, big chem, big ag, big this, big that like. The local guys, the small farmers, the small ranchers, the small mid-sized businesses, they're all hurting, but that doesn't matter because as long as the big money is there to continue buying off the politicians in Washington, they're happy. So John Thune is going home to celebrate a job well done for his globalist masters. The guy makes me sick. It's disgusting. And the fact that Thune got unanimous consent on this isn't just disappointing, it's appalling. It's absolutely appalling. And I got to say something. There's been a couple senators who are kind of on the line and getting into some trouble with Trump because they're objecting to some of the things he's done. Let me point out Rand Paul. I think this was a political error for Rand Paul. He should have voted against the adjournment. He really should have. I would have liked to seen a couple of these guys vote against it because it would have been symbolically very important to the American people and to their voters. The fact that this was unanimous just tells us where the U.S. Senate is. There is no representation of the American people. No one is happy with the U.S. Senate. And, I really... Man, I don't know. I just don't know what's going to happen this midterm because, the people, we're sick of it. It's hard to be excited when we keep getting stabbed in the back. We voted for MAGA. We voted for MAHA. We voted for the swamp to be drained, and instead the swamp is just winning bigger. It just keeps getting worse. The swamp is dug in and showed everybody how little they care about we the people. I mean, in light of the fact that we still haven't been able to get discovery or true examination of anything related to the voting machines, nor have we been able to get any actual meaningful voter reform passed, why would they care? They're just going to cheat. They're going to keep stealing elections and stealing primaries. They don't care. We, the people, are no longer represented in Washington, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. The Republicans suck. I'm sorry, they suck. The Democrats, definitely worse. The Democrats are going full communist right now. If we got time at the end of the show, I'm going to get into that. But the Republicans, there's nothing to vote for. There's nothing to vote for. If there was a party, or if the Republicans would get their act together and actually represent the people, would represent MAGA and MAHA, there'd be overwhelming support. They'd win by so much, it's ridiculous. Both parties, 90% of America distrusts Big Pharma. 80% of America wants the SAVE Act. There's a few things they could come together and get done, and the Republican Party would be heroes. But they won't do it because they don't care. They're just going to steal elections. That's what's happening, folks. We don't like it. We don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to talk about it. But hey, reality is what it is. And that is exactly what's happening right now. The reality is that we're being screwed by both parties, and no one seems to care. So we've got all that going. Now let's get into this, right? Let's get into this. I posted today and I put up breaking. SCOTUS rules Bayer Monsanto can continue causing cancer without warning people using glyphosate without being sued, right? So this is really the ruling. The ruling says that despite the fact that it's pretty clear that there is a connection, despite the fact that numerous juries have looked at this and have ruled that there is a connection between glyphosate and cancer, despite the fact that on record there's just extensive evidence of corruption, collusion, all these different things, the Supreme Court ruled that there's immunity. Why? Now, let me explain this, because in this case, I'm not going to bash the Supreme Court on this case. Now, there's another part of the law that's really bad. Right? I will bash the Trump administration because the Trump administration fought hard to get this ruling. They could have fought against it, and had they done so, it may have swayed the case the other way. But let me explain what this ruling did. There is a law, 7 U.S.C. 136V, and let me show you guys this right here. So we got to get this. Ben, can we get this resized? I want people to see this. 7 U.S.C. 136V, authority of the states, right? So this is related to pesticides. And a state may regulate the sale or use of any federally registered pesticide or device in the state, but only if and to the extent the regulation does not permit the sale or use of any prohibited use in this chapter. Now, then it goes on to Part B, and this was why the Supreme Court ruled what it was. Part B right here, uniformity. This is very important. Such state shall not impose or continue in effect any requirements for labeling or packaging in addition to or different from those required under this subchapter. So let me explain how these lawsuits have gone. the state where there have been wins against Monsanto for causing cancer, states have said that there was a failure to warn. Right, so all the courts that have done this on a failure to warn. So what that means is they're saying that, hey, Bayer Monsanto knows or should have known that there was a causal connection between their product and cancer, and they did not inform anybody. They did not label it, right? So the state said, hey, you failed to warn our consumers, the people who are using this. The result has been that farmers, golf course attendants, all sorts of people who use glyphosate constantly, after long-term exposure, they end up getting non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or other diseases. They get sick. So I want you to imagine that you grew up on a farm. Your dad's a farmer, right? Mom's helping with the farm. Dad's a farmer. The kids help on the farm. You got a family farm, right? And you're growing your corn or your beans, whatever you're growing. You're spraying glyphosate because you're better yields, better this, better that, right? And suddenly, Dad comes down with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And that non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is a direct result of using glyphosate. Well, obviously, you've got to pay for the cancer treatments, assuming you survive. You've got to fight for your life. The cost of dealing with cancer is mind-blowing. It's incredibly costly. I've dealt with it in my family. I'm dealing with it in my family. It is insane, right? It is insane. Cancer is appalling, and it breaks the family. Not only that, but Dad, who's been running the farm, can no longer work because he's now dealing with cancer. The family goes broke. They lose their farm. They lose everything, and they go into poverty. Well, all because they're using a product that the manufacturer knew causes cancer, but didn't warn them. So they didn't know. So the farmer is out of luck. So what's he do? Well, you should have told them if you're the manufacturer, but they didn't. They covered it up. They lied. And not only did they lie, but there's the courts have seen evidence that Monsanto manipulated the EPA. They bought people off. They ghost wrote papers, faking safety studies, all sorts of things. They didn't just lie. They did it with intent to deceive and cover up. But they didn't warn. There was no label change. And the law says such state shall not impose or continue to in effect any requirements for labeling or packaging in addition to or different from those required under this subchapter. Well, this subchapter that they're talking about allows the EPA to set labels. So the EPA is corrupt, right? We know the EPA is corrupt because there's evidence that's been introduced in numerous court cases showing that the EPA colluded with glyphosate manufacturers to keep the label the way it was and to cover up the cancer. So the EPA didn't do its job. The state stepped in and they looked at Part A, where it says a state may regulate the sale or use of any federally registered pesticide or device in the state, but only if and to the extent the regulation does not permit any sale or use prohibited by this chapter. So the lawyers have wisely leaned into Part A of this law. The Supreme Court read Part B and said, hey, that's true, but Part B very explicitly says that the state can't screw with the labeling requirements. That's the EPA's job. So the Supreme Court, followed the law. They really did. It's a bad law. But here's the problem. The problem with this ruling is not the Supreme Court following the law. The problem is the corruption in the EPA. The EPA is as corrupt as the FDA. They are wildly, wildly corrupt. The revolving door, all the stuff that we talk about in Big Pharma, also happens in the EPA. And it happens extensively. It's well documented. The conflicts of interest, the corruption, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, are appalling. So the Supreme Court was right on this case, but they were wrong in another area. Where they're wrong is the Supreme Court keeps making it harder and harder for us to sue the EPA or the federal governments on fact findings, right? So they give great deference to the FDA, the EPA, to all these guys on fact finding. The result is that the EPA and the FDA have certain rules, they have obligations, they have things they're supposed to be doing. But because the courts give them deference in their fact-finding, there's nothing, it's very, very difficult to sue them. Now, the other side of it is they give the deference in the fact-finding, but they don't give deference to the people who are suing over the fact-finding, right? The people who are suing in the fact-finding they're up against the wall. It's a hell of a thing. I can attest to this because when I sued over a number of things related to the COVID vaccine, the courts did not want to look at the facts. They didn't want to question the experts. So, well, the government wouldn't lie, except for the government does lie over and over again. The government doesn't enforce the law against itself, ever. When's the last? This is why we keep talking about accountability. When there's no accountability for government corruption, the government becomes more and more corrupt. And that's what's happened. Our entire federal government is corrupt. Nobody's doing anything about it. OIG's a joke. So this has happened. The industry capture of our regulatory bodies has ensured that people can't get justice. This ruling that you know, federal law preempts state law was technically correct, but there's no way to challenge our government when they lie. That's the problem. This was an appalling ruling. And this was an appalling action by the Trump DOJ to support this. The Trump DOJ should never, ever have gone out there fighting for glyphosate. This is a betrayal of MAHA on every single level. It is mind-blowing. Everybody knows about the corruption in the federal government. Everybody knows about the industry capture, the EPA, the FDA, and all these different agencies. It's the same reasons the FCC won't actually allow any studies on the dangers of 5G or 6G or this EMF radiation. They won't do it because it would affect industry. No one wants to affect industry because they're all getting paid off by industry. The result is that we, the people, have no representation. There's no checks or balances, and no one is looking at what's happening. The Trump administration betrayed us on this issue in a big way. The glyphosate executive order is unforgivable. It's absolutely unforgivable. And the DOJ's actions on this are unforgivable. And, you know, this is going to really, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Now, I want to go over a few things, right? So within these different lawsuits that have occurred against the manufacturers of glyphosate, there's been a number of different things. So first of all, the International Agency on Cancer Research, or Research on Cancer, IARC, right? They classified glyphosate as a probable carcinogen back in, 2015. 2015, right? And this was, it was a very solid ruling. There was a strong statistical signal indicating that. So it was a good ruling or a good decision. When they went through these cases, there were numerous meta-analyses and pooled analyses of epidemiological case-controlled studies, and they showed statistically significant associations between glyphosate and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. This was very, very significant, right? Over 40%. This is a very, very significant signal. You start getting to 40%, it's a huge number when it comes to this sort of thing, right? Animal carcinogenicity has already shown increased rates of cancer and other such things related to glyphosate. Genotoxicity evidence, numerous studies, right? Numerous studies all indicated that glyphosate can damage DNA, cause mutations, produce all sorts of genotoxic effects, both in vivo and in vitro, which means both in your body and in the test tube. There's no question that glyphosate is toxic. There's no question that it causes DNA mutations and damage. It causes all sorts of problems. There's been mechanistic and supporting data showing the oxidative stress, cell proliferation. Oxidative stress is a really big deal, because part of the theory behind cancer is this. So when we talk about oxidative stress, this is kind of complicated, but bear with me. Oxidative stress on a cellular level is related to oxidation, right? Cancer doesn't like oxygen. The cell mutates when there's oxidative stress. It pushes mutation, which pushes you towards cancer. And I'm oversimplifying. I know my scientists are cringing, saying, oh, there's more to it than that. But for simplicity's purposes and for what we're talking about right now, there is a very strong connection here, very strong. There were more experts than I could possibly list, right? And they applied what's called the Bradford Hill criteria to epidemiological, toxicological, genotoxicological evidence, and they concluded to a reasonable degree of scientific and medical certainty that glyphosate and glyphosate related things can cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in humans through occupational and environmental exposure, right? So there's been an immense amount of evidence offered on this. The scientists have reviewed it. The independent scientists have reviewed this, and they've come to that conclusion. These formulated Roundup products particularly carried additional enhanced risks because they also had a bunch of other stuff in them, right? A bunch of other things that were even more poisonous. So it's not just the glyphosate, it's all the other crap in there, like ethylene oxide, right? There's a bunch of other chemicals in these things that causes just endless problems. So we had, in some of these cases, there's a few different cases. You had the Johnson v. Monsanto. There's a $289 million verdict. And he was a school groundskeeper. Lots and lots of Roundup exposure. Ended up with all sorts of problems. Terminal prognosis. It is what it is. Hardman v. Monsanto, long-term use, right? Long-term use of Roundup. He got with B-cell non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, all sorts of problems. Jury found unanimously that Roundup exposure was a substantial factor, right? Piliad v. Monsanto. Another guy, home use, spraying Roundup around their properties a long time. Got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma after years of exposure. Same scientific evidence. Plus, they had a whole bunch of internal Monsanto documents showing that Monsanto knew and intentionally suppressed the dangers of their product, that showed that they knew and intentionally suppressed. These guys intentionally suppressed. They worked with their crooked partners at the EPA. They suppressed the science. It's there. There's no question about it. The jury found it was guilty, right? There were other wins. A home gardener, use over years. You had a $332 million verdict over significant exposure. That's Caranci and Dennis. You had Anderson, occupational repeated use, $1.56 billion jury verdict. You had Martell, 15 years of use. Millicent, use since 92. That was a 2024 case, $78 million verdict. Barnes, 20 years of use, $2.1 billion. There's been win after win after win. The jury has found over and over again. There's been awareness of the carcinogenicity of cancer-causing properties of Roundup and glyphosate since the 80s. The 80s. In the 70s, uses of industrial biotests for lab studies. They knew in the 70s likely that the product was dangerous. EPA at the time was kind of back and forth on this. They didn't have authority to remove it from the market. Over and over again, for decades now, we have shown and proven in courts that glyphosate causes cancer. But here's the problem. The law says the EPA gets the final say on labeling requirements. And since the EPA is crooked and it's hard to sue the EPA, what do? So my solution is, personally, I think we need to sue the EPA. The court says that we can't, the EPA has final label requirements, and the EPA is derelict in its duties because it has it's required to look at these sorts of things. I think we need to sue the EPA. And I'm actually looking into this. We'll see whether or not the suit pans out. There's a lot that goes into these sorts of suits. They're big, they're expensive, they're difficult. But I think we need to look at the EPA. The corruption is mind-blowing, it's absurd, and it's well documented. There is such an extensive case record of corruption related to the EPA, related to glyphosate and all these other things that, I mean, honestly, folks, there's really no question in my mind about the connection between glyphosate and cancer. But that isn't what the court was ruling on, okay? The Supreme Court wasn't asked about the glyphosate and cancer. They were asked a question of federalism, and it stood. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses for the Supreme Court. Now, had the administration, had the DOJ gone in and said, no, listen, we think that Section A should govern, that might have allowed this to stand. Granted, Bayer has some great lawyers and did a great job arguing this, but I think that if the DOJ had came down on the other side, we might have seen the ruling go the other way. There is room to interpret Section A the way it was interpreted in the past, and it was probably valid. Up until the DOJ got involved, well, this stuff was standing. It was working, right? So now Trump issues this glyphosate order, and he says the DOJ is going to back you. And so, you know, this was, I don't know how to say it, just a betrayal of MAHA, 100%. I'm not saying it would have guaranteed came out the other way because the ruling wasn't legally unsound. But the problem comes down to the administration's unwillingness to hold crooks in the government to drain the swamp, to hold them accountable. We asked this administration to drain the swamp. They're backstroking in it. They're not draining it. They're swimming in it. They love it. The EPA is wildly and inarguably corrupt. They have been for years. This is inexcusable. So what's the result of all this, right? We're going into the midterms. Now everybody's pissed, and MAHA is furious, right? And frankly, for my brothers and sisters in MAHA, you know, I talk about this as an attorney, but the reality is from MAHA's perspective, we don't give a damn. At the end of the day, we just wanted this cancer-causing poison to be something that people can be held accountable for. And instead of supporting us in that, the administration went the wrong way. So this is going to be a big, big hit on Republicans in the midterms. I guarantee you the moms aren't going to forget. MAHA is not turning out for the Republicans who've been trying to jam immunity in various farm bills, despite the absolute outrage from the MAHA moms and others. This will have a profound impact on the midterms, and good. It should. This should. And I'm really torn here, right? Because I don't want the Democrats to win. But at the same time, if the Republicans are worse than the Democrats or as bad as the Democrats or betraying us and stabbing us in the back, how can you tell me I should get out and vote for them? How can I, in good conscience, vote for the people who supported this? And the answer is I really can't. I'm not saying don't vote. I definitely want you to vote. But, you know, vote your conscience. That's what I'm going to tell you. Vote your conscience. And I will tell you that while I will definitely vote in the midterms, there will be some races that I will not register. I will not vote for. I will leave them blank. I will say no vote at all. Because frankly, and which, I know that they're cheating and stealing votes. Mike DeWine just vetoed a voting bill here in Ohio. But despite the fact that my vote may or may not count because of the corruption, I'm still going to vote. And I will tell you that I will be leaving certain races blank. I will not vote for any candidate because I cannot vote for candidates that support this. I just can't. So that's my conscience. You do what you want to do. But I am not going to do that. Well, the GOP and the administration know that they are in deep trouble with MAHA, deep trouble. So on this day, and this was no coincidence, they decided to issue this bullshit executive order. And I don't know how else to say it. This is absolute garbage. Advancing regenerative agriculture and strengthening American farm resilience. So this was a attempt by the administration to save face, right? It's garbage. It's not real, but it's an attempt. So this executive order starts out with a load of crap. They start out an initial mission to address childhood chronic disease crisis, directed the involved executive departments to work with farmers to ensure U.S. food is the healthiest, most abundant, most affordable in the world. That's a load of shit. By the way, we've budgeted $1 billion for $1 billion for regenerative farming. We spend almost $560 billion on crop subsidies every year. $1 billion? That's a joke. That's an absolute joke. We print money and send $40 million a week to the Taliban. $40 million a week. 52 weeks a year. We're spending more money with the Taliban than we are on regenerative farming. But no, they got to put this out to try and save face. American farmers and ranchers always prioritize care. They're like, bullshit, this whole thing. American farmers and ranchers do. Big corporate farmers and ranchers don't care. The small guys, the family-owned farms, they do great work, but they don't want those. So they go on and they put this whole executive order is meaningless. This is meaningless, right? They aren't going to do anything with this. Nothing's coming from this. This order, hey, you should do this, you should do that. They aren't going to do anything. This is a meaningless waste of paper. I'm not going to read it all to you because it's garbage. This was something to save face because this administration betrayed MAHA again, just like they did with this mRNA flu vaccine, just like they did with the other mRNA nonsense, just like they did when they invited Bill Gates and Borla to the White House instead of putting them in jail. Over and over again, this administration has ignored and taken for granted MAHA, and then they do this insulting nonsense, issuing an executive order like we're supposed to be okay with this. We're supposed to be okay with them defending glyphosate because they put out an executive order saying, hey, you guys should look at labeling. Okay, yeah, you just got done telling us that you don't give a damn about the glyphosate, that you support it. You don't give a damn about the people getting cancer. But now we're supposed to say, oh, but thank you, Mr. President. You've issued an executive order on regenerative farming. This is bullcrap, folks. This is bullcrap. It's nonsense. So, yeah, I'm kind of grumpy about this. This whole order, everything about this was a betrayal. And that's just what it is. So I'm going to stop there. I'm furious about this. And anybody that supports health or making America healthy again should be. I mean, we just got done. Look at what we just did. We fought all this mRNA stuff all the way through the Biden administration. We get here to the Trump administration, and they doubled down on it. Then they push glyphosate. And they push these other things. I'm sorry, but there is no MAHA in this administration. Bobby Kennedy is up there. He's not allowed to do anything. He's fighting as hard as he can, but he can't get a damn thing done because they won't let him. It's appalling. Speaking of mRNA and the poison COVID vaccines, today we had a new paper released, and here it is. Ben, can we show this paper? We're just going to show it real quick. This is from the International Journal of Vaccine Theory, Practice, and Research, right? And this actually, I want to point this out, guys. This journal article was published by a researcher from Israel. So for anybody that's saying that we got problems with Israel, but the problems stem from their corrupt government, just like our corrupt government. It's not the people. Right? We had an independent researcher from Israel who was part of this paper. And then we also had a guy from Okinawa who is a professor who was involved in this. And what they did was they went through and they looked at all the evidence. Now, if you recall, during COVID, we talked a lot about, there were a lot of conspiracy theories, let's call them conspiracy theories, about nanotech and all sorts of other things being in the vaccines. And everybody talked about these sort of self-assembling nanotechnology and nanoparticles that were in the vaccines. And there was never hard proof, right? There was a lot of evidence, but not enough hard proof to really show it. So these guys went through and they put together all the evidence and all the stuff that there is. And they produced this 53-page paper. It's extensive, it's lengthy, and it's really interesting. If you go through this, and I'm going to scroll down, and you see, I want to show you a couple pictures. They break down everything we know about this. And there wasn't, mostly this was a review, a literature review, but there was some microscopy done that showed some things. Now, one of the things that's interesting, they showed these are the calamari clots. That keep forming, and no one's really found a good explanation for them. Now, this is interesting. I want to show this picture. This picture is what they're calling a nanotechnology structure in a blood sample taken from a finger prick drop of an unjabbed volunteer. The reason that's important is you have to understand the shedding and the spreading. We've been talking about shedding since Pfizer admitted it was an issue in their documents, right? So Pfizer admitted that shedding is a thing. It was in the COVID documents. It was in their applications for licensure and some of these other things. They talked about shedding as a reportable safety event. In fact, they said specifically, and I broke this in 2021, that if a pregnant woman comes in contact with someone who's been exposed, so someone who's been vaccinated, that is a reportable safety event. The reason it was a reportable safety event was because they know this poison spreads. It is sheds. It's contagious on some levels. We don't know how contagious. Nobody knows the details on it, but we know that it's a thing. So what we see is even in unjabbed people who are exposed appropriately to certain tech, you see things like this picture that they have here, where you see these nanofiber-like ribbons and materials that nobody really understands. Now, let me show you a couple other pictures. Ben, can we pull this back up? There's a couple other things I need to show you in the study that are very relevant here. So along with this initial picture of these ribbon-like nanostructures, that are in this the blood of people right now. There's more, right? So here's another picture and some other pictures. These are synthetic structures resembling a parasite that self-assembled on a glass slide. Okay, so they took some fluid from a Pfizer vial and placed it on a glass slide, and they watched it, and this thing formed, right? Here's a couple more. These are also these ribbon-like structures. Same thing that we're seeing in the blood here. We're seeing when they put it on a microscope slide and they watch it. This self-assembling whatever keeps forming. Now, no one really understands what this is, and this study didn't break down what precisely these materials are, but it speculates. So we go on. And there's a couple really interesting other things in here that I want to show you. So bear with me. This is a picture of a 75 micrometer spherical shaped compartmentalized cell size. Well, it's not an actual cell. It's artificial, right? So this, what they're saying is an artificial cell, a nanotech, a piece of nanotech containing a meta-DNA, right? A fake DNA. Right? And they're showing it's encapsulated. Now, this is important because you see this square here, this square. Now, if we scroll down and there's more pictures, more cellular things that they're finding, the cell size things that are in there, these protocells, and they're finding all these. But if you scroll down a bit, you see this. And this is a structure that looks like an electronic circuit assembled on a breadboard as per the illustration, Nate. Now, this is what they're speculating is happening. This is what they think that square was in there. Kind of like a artificial control system in this. Now, is this accurate? Is this scientifically proven? No. It's a hypothesis based on a lot of research and a lot of data. Is it real? I don't know. I can't say that. But it's certainly interesting. Now, they go through all this and they lay out, they've got this interesting little picture here of how they think this would all work. And their theory is that this nanotech that they're suggesting might be involved here would be injected into people, and it would become kind of self-powering, self-replicating circuitry that would survive in the body. It would draw power from the human body and then do whatever it is. Now, they found that people who were injected with these vaccines, when they tested everybody has a field around them, an energy field around them. When they tested the energy field from people, because people generate energy and they release it into there. When they tested that energy field, they found over and over again that they were able to pull MAC addresses. So MAC addresses are things that you see on the internet. They're parts of it. They're addresses for a network node, right, on the internet. And for some reason, people are giving off MAC addresses. This doesn't make sense, right? None of this makes sense. And the point, one of the things that this paper says is they say, listen, we're seeing all these bizarre things, nanotech, these ribbon type things, these protocells, these little circuit board looking things. We're seeing all these bizarre things. We're seeing people giving off MAC addresses. And they're saying, listen, there's no real biological explanation for this. This has never happened in history. This is not something that people normally do. But now all of a sudden, the people who are jabbed or exposed to jabs are doing this. Why? How? What's the explanation? And they go on and they talk about a number of different things. And one of the things that's interesting that they mention is they go through all of the science here. And they talk about IEEE standards. Okay, so this is really important, and this is an illustration. It doesn't go into the IEEE standards, but the IEEE standards, IEEE, so IE3, is it's a group that sets standards for different electronic devices, ways that they communicate. So how does the internet communicate? How does my computer talk to your computer? How does my router talk to your router? How does this thing work? And they have standards now that are established since 2012 for the Internet of Bodies and how you can connect your a body to the internet. Now, this ties in with the whole push. DARPA's been talking about the brain-computer interface and some of these other things related to it for a very long time, right? So these guys hypothesize. They lay out all of these things that really are indisputable facts and say, hey, are they injecting us with nanotech? And that's the question. They lay out a very good case that makes the argument that we should study and see what's in these. And God knows we can't trust pharma. We can't trust the government. So someone's going to need to study this. Unfortunately, the cost to study it is outrageous. And you have to have special tech, right? Special tech that is really, it's so expensive. So for a scanning electron microscope is about $1 million. To be able to actually analyze some of these chemicals and some of these things that are in the body to determine what's really there, the equipment costs millions of dollars. So most people don't have access to it. Some of the universities do, some of the others, but they won't let independent researchers use the equipment to study what's going on. The science is actually controlled and it's blocked. Real researchers, independent researchers, people who are not corrupt, they're not allowed to look at this stuff. They're not allowed to evaluate this stuff. They're not allowed to do anything. Instead, they just have to sit on the sidelines. Why? If there's nothing to hide, why is it being hidden? Why is everything about this being hidden if there's nothing to hide? I think the answer is fairly manifest, but I guess we'll see over time. Unfortunately, it appears that this stuff is more spreading and more contagious than what we once knew. And that is a great danger to everybody. It is a tremendous danger. And I really don't know what we're going to do about that because it's already gone past the point of no return for many people. Now, as they put more mRNA out, the mRNA flu shots, the saRNA, some of these advanced RNA Frankenstein type things, these protocells, all these different things they're doing, who knows what's going to happen. Meanwhile, with all these MAHA betrayals, and all these different things going on, there's the push for midterms. Republican Governor Mike DeWine vetoes mail-in voter photo ID bill. So Ohio, The Republican Party in Ohio finally got together and they said, hey, maybe we should, check this voter fraud thing. It turns out we have huge Medicare Somali daycare fraud going on in Ohio. Yeah, maybe we should do something about this. How about we just do a really limited bill and saying that if you want to do mail-in voting, you got to do a photo ID. Seems reasonable, right? Vetoed by a Republican governor, right? Our Republican House, Republican Senate passed this bill. It is vetoed by the Republican governor. Will they override the veto? I doubt it. But there is a push to get this on the ballot as a constitutional amendment. That would be a wonderful thing if they do it. But I will tell you this, guys, this is a double-edged sword, because I'm relatively sure that whatever they put on the ballot will include a requirement for real ID or some other track and trace ID instead of just some other sort of reasonable verification process. We're just going the wrong way on every direction. There's 5D chess being played, folks, and we're losing. We're losing badly because the Republicans keep selling us out at every turn. They cannot do enough to undermine America, yet we're supposed to get out and vote for them. Now, I'll grant you, the Democrats are worse. In fact, today, Donald Trump came out and he's talking about all of these socialist Democrat Nazis that are winning all over. I mean, the Democrats aren't just Democrats anymore. They're moving to straight up communist. Communists are winning over and over. Socialists and communists are winning in the Democrat Party primaries. And so this is creating a problem. And Donald Trump says the communists are finally making their move. I've been waiting and preparing for this for a long time. It's easy to be a communist. All you have to do is say, I'll give you everything, but that means you're taking it away from others that have earned it. Over thousands of years, that ideology has not worked once. The game is on. Enjoy watching President Donald Trump. Okay, I can get behind supporting Trump on this, right? I can get behind supporting him on being anti-communist. Here's the problem. He's moving from he's against communism, but he's supporting fascism. We're supporting the corporate takeover of America against communism. Neither's good. How about a republic? Can we please go back to a republic? How about a nation governed by the people, where the will of the people matters, not the will of the special interests, the billionaires, the globalist elites, not the will of the communist government control monsters, but how about where we go back to we the people? How about we do that? I think America would support that. That's what MAGA was about. Make America great again. Drain the swamp. Hold the crooks accountable. Get us back to the constitutional republic that we once were. But we're not. Instead, we're going in an entirely new direction. On one side, we have the Democrat communists. And on the other side, we have the Republicans who are essentially supporting fascism. There's no winning for we the people. We really, really need to retake the Republican Party. A third party has never really done anything for us. But, I don't know. As part of me thinks maybe it's time. But then I look at what that would do. I mean, I think the best solution for us is to retake the Republican Party. But it's going to be tough, folks, because the Republican Party is so corrupt and the power structure is so entrenched. I mean, look at the problem Charity Lynch is having in Oklahoma. My friend Charity Lynch is retaken. She's, the best. There's a couple really good state leaders in the Republican Party, but they're all hamstrung and they're all attacked by the National Party. And, Trump will come in and say, hey, you got to do this, or hey, you got to do that. So they're very limited in what they can do. But we're going to really have to retake that Republican Party, because right now it's not a party of we the people. It's a party of they the globalists. The Democrats have totally lost their mind. They're socialist communists. They're worse. But we have got to retake the Republican Party. That is really the crisis that we're facing right now. We've got to retake it. We've got to get it back. And if we don't, I just don't know what's going to happen. There's not a whole lot of options going forward. We're going the wrong direction. Folks, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. GiveSendGo.com/RenzLaw, TomRenz.com. Appreciate your support. We will be back very soon.
Axe in the skull of tyranny, swinging hard. Hale & Associates are a financial services organization specializing in retirement planning. We work with individuals from across the country, understanding that each person has unique needs and desires. Our goal is to help you develop income planning solutions that last a lifetime while securing your estate in a tax-efficient manner. Since 1983, Hale & Associates has been committed to educating the public on effective retirement planning strategies. We strive to empower our clients to make informed decisions to achieve their financial goals and secure their future. Let us help you take the necessary steps to build a retirement plan that meets your needs and provides financial peace of mind.